Welcome to chapter 1 of the COPIUS Mari course. This is the first of 40 chapters of our textbook, Ongai Mari Ilme. You will find a link to the textbook chapter on the course page. And critically, you will also find in a description a link to a classroom recording where I, with a group of international students, went through this whole chapter in great detail. This video will just give the briefest overview of this chapter that will just give you an overview of what we cover in this chapter. If you want more information about any of these individual points, look at the description. You'll find the appropriate links there. So what have we got in the grammar? What are we looking at in this chapter? Most of the things we look at in this chapter, if this is not your first Finno-Ugric language, a lot of what we're learning at the beginning is not going to be that shocking for you. We learn about articles, haven't got them in Mari, no definite, no indefinite articles, no articles at all. We have a first look at to be. How does one express this in Mari? For now, we're just looking at the third person. How do you say Peter is a doctor, Anne is a professor, etc.? So-called copulative sentences, X is Y. And we're also going to have a first look at existential clauses. How do you say that something exists? How do you say there is a God? And how do you say there is no God, depending on your worldview? We have a first look at grammatical gender. And if you know Finno-Ugric languages, you will not be shocked to learn that we haven't got it in Mari. But just because we don't have grammatical gender doesn't mean that you can completely escape the topic of gender in Mari, because we have loanwords from Russian, which in Russian are gender marked. And then the question is, how do we deal with this with Russian loanwords in Mari? Do we use the masculine forms as generic forms, or do we also use the Russian feminine forms when we have such pairings like vospitatel, educator, grammatically male, vospitatelnica, in Russian, educator, female? Yeah, look at the long form video for a more extensive discussion on the topic. We have a first look at word order, where we learned that in Mari, as is typical for languages of this geographic area, the further towards the northeast as you go in Eurasia, the verb is at the end of the sentence. So you say, if you want to say that Ivan lives in Yoshkola, you say Ivan in Yoshkola lives. And critically also, we don't change the word order in questions in Mari. So if I ask, where does Ivan live? I have the elements ordered exactly as I have it in the statement. I'd say Ivan where lives. Yeah, and this has a far-reaching implications in the syntax of Mari, this basic characteristic of the word order. Basically, everything's upside down from an English perspective. We are looking at our first grammatical case, in addition to the nominative, the Inessive, used to express that something is in somewhere. And the Inessive also gives us an opportunity to become familiar with Mari vowel harmony, which is primarily suffixal. It pertains to the realization of suffixes, though there are also minor aspects of so-called radical vowel harmony, that is vowel harmony pertaining to the root radix. That's what we mean when we talk about radical stuff in linguistics. Yeah, we'll have a look at that, and we'll have a look at how sometimes Russian loanwords can be adapted to adhere to Mari vowel harmony rules. And we're going to learn to form the Inessive case, how we attach this suffix to stems of different types, and also to foreign names. We're going to have a first look at cardinal numbers from 1 to 50. So that's numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whereas the most interesting thing we learn at first is that in Mari we have a duality of short and long cardinal numbers, depending on if we use a number with another word noun following it, like two houses, or in Mari, two house, or if we just use a number on its own, like 2 + 2 is 4. Then we would use the long form. If you know Hungarian, you know this general principle, because Hungarian uses the same logic in regard to the number 2. Yeah, and we have a look at the number words, the short forms and the long forms, and also the formation of numbers from 11 to 19. And we also have a look at numbers from 20 to 50. Well, you can actually extrapolate from the information that you have here all the way up to 59 if you are working ahead. Yeah, we look at where the numbers, the 20, 30, 40, 50 numbers actually come from. So as I mentioned, in Mari, you would actually say two house, because in Mari, you use singular forms after numerals. The Mari logic is that if we already have plurality expressed by some other means, like by the number 2, then it would be redundant to use a plural suffix. We already know that it's plural from the number 2, so why bother with the plural suffix? This is reasoning you would find quite often in Mari. You would find quite often in places where you're from English, or also from more Western Finno-Ugric languages like Finnish, Estonian, or Hungarian would expect plural suffixes don't have plural suffixes, because from context, it is clear that we're talking about a plural concept. Yeah, we're looking at attributes in Mari, specifically that we can use any noun in Mari as an attribute modifying another noun without any additional modification. If you're used to Baltic Finnic languages like Finnish and Estonian, you might have the temptation to use the genitive in these cases. Don't do that in Mari, do it as you do in English. So if we have the University of Vienna, it's just Vienna Universität, Vienna University. So the University of Vienna doesn't do this, but for example, the university in Uppsala, Sweden does this. Its official name in English is Uppsala University. Same logic as in Mari. If we have the Russian Federation, it's just Россия Federacji, Russia Federation. And the Mari Republic is Mari el Republik. Yeah, and if we put a noun phrase with an attribute of any sort, this could also be an adjective attribute, into a grammatical case, we only put the case ending at the end of the phrase. So Vienna Universität at the University of Vienna. The first element is inert. Also, if it's an adjective. If you're coming from Baltic Finnic languages, this is something you might need to get used to. Yeah. We have a quick look at dictionary forms. How do you actually look up nouns and verbs in Mari dictionary, like the Mari English dictionary? For nouns, it's easy. You just look up the nominative forms. For verbs, there are some things you have to pay attention to. We discuss it in the long form video. Words and word usage, what have we got here? Yeah, we look at que, who, and mo, what, how these words are used in Mari, in what contexts. We talk a bit about names. This is more a general Russian topic than a Mari topic, because we look at the system of Russian names that people in the West often get wrong, where a person will have a family name, like in this case of the first female cosmonaut, the first woman to go to space, who has the family name Tereshkova, the given name Valentina, and the patronym Vladimirovna, which is just to indicate her father was Vladimir. It's like just the father's name with an ending. And so these three, everybody in Russia has these three names. It's a system you need to get used to, because Mars use it too. The only thing where the Mars system then differs a bit from the Russian system is the ordering of the names. So like in Mari, you have the ordering as you have here, usually family name, then given name, then patronym. Yeah, here you see Tchaikovsky, what his full name, his full Russian name, but in Mari ordering looks like. Then we discuss what do foreigners do when they're in Russia, and what do you do when you have somebody who identifies as neither male or female. Complicated topics, it's all in the long form video. We also discussed the fact that names in Russia often have many forms, diminutive forms that one would not necessarily always immediately recognize as a form of the name. So we have, for example, for Dmitry, the name Dmitry has the Russian diminutive form Dima, but then these names will often also have diminutive forms in smaller speaker communities. Like among the Maris, the name Dmitry also has the version Dmitry. There is an overview in the course materials of names, so that you have a cheat sheet to look up these things that we have just discussed. Yeah, so we discussed the word yash, yeared, an adjective, and how's one way to say in Mari that somebody is so and so many years old. Literally, you say that somebody is, for example, 37 yeared. coming from the word year. In the text, we meet 2 of the 4 main protagonists of a textbook. So a lot of the texts in, especially the early part of this textbook, surround the Sapiev family, and for now we are meeting the parents. From an outside perspective, because at this point we don't yet know verbal forms. We'll get to more detailed, more lively introductions soon. Yes, and then once you have read the text, you can also have a look at the exercise. We also have a recording of me going through some of the exercises with my students. Once you have also worked through the exercise, as a bonus, every chapter of this Mari course has a song of the week associated with it. That is a Mari song of some shape or form, where I have found usually a YouTube clip of it, and oftentimes have also found lyrics to it. When you get to later chapters, you can read the lyrics, and often they will have aspects that are interesting in respect to the grammar covered in the chapter. We're not there yet at this point, but the first song of the week that you can have a look at in association with this chapter is called SMS Salam. 2 words you might know: SMS, a text message, and salam, hello or greeting. Commonly used word in Mari. So have fun and see you in chapter 2.